Welcome back to Play and Talk About Cyber. This week, and just about every week, what comes up is where to live. Where do you live when you're starting off in cyber? Or any career, really, for that fact, but especially in cyber. And I tell people the same thing every time, which is, where are you living now? If that's not one of the main hubs, you need to get to one of the main hubs. And, I'll go through 10 of them here at the end. But here's why. Right now, the economy's down. People are having a tougher time getting work. If they're in one of these bigger places, there's just more jobs. Two, there's more people in the industry for you to network with. Thus, the potential to get more jobs. Quality of life, a lot of times you're going to give up quality of life, I'd say, to live in one of these areas, but at least you got a job. Austin, Texas is a lot more expensive than Little Rock, Arkansas for the same kind of IT job, but Austin's got more opportunity. The growth path in these more tech-oriented cities where you could go to work for, one of the majors, Dell, Cisco, EMC, let's say, versus being somewhere where those opportunities don't exist, your career trajectory is a lot different. And if you think back to like the early 2000s when the tech boom took off, it took off in San Francisco. That's still probably the number one place to work with Google, Apple, Facebook, all those guys there. And if you're not in one of those cities and one of those type of jobs, you probably aren't getting stock. You probably aren't getting RSUs in the company, which is a huge deal. Because as those shares vest and you keep them over time, if your salary's $70,000 a year, you might end up making another 70 that year after holding that stock for 10 years to let it mature. When I first got out and went to work in the early 2000s in tech, I wasn't in one of those cities, and I definitely wasn't working for a company that was giving out stock. There was a lot of money. I see those same guys that got in on that stock early. I'm 55. They're starting to retire at 55 and 60, where I'll be working another 10 or 15 years because I'm that far behind them in total net worth. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal I certainly didn't know to consider. The salaries will be higher in those places. The cost of living will be higher, but your opportunity for jobs that have some stock, same way. Austin, Texas, definitely not as expensive as San Francisco, and you're going from the left-leaning to the right-leaning, but in the state of Texas, now Austin in that way, it's another good spot. Seattle would be right behind that. The D.C. area would be in there too. Certainly a high cost of living area that you'd have to take into account. Boston, believe it or not, Dallas-Fort Worth comes in on the list here at 6th. I tell you, that's the best spot to live in the whole nation. That's where I'm standing at right now. There is tax advantages, a booming economy, and relative to these other places, a super cheap cost of living. Now, New York City, Atlanta, Denver, Raleigh-Durham come into play. Any of those places that you were to go to work and get on with a major, even a mid-major company that after you were there a while would afford you the ability to have remote work. If you can go to work for one of those companies that's in a high dollar, high cost area, I've worked for a couple of California companies and lived in Arkansas. You're going to make California wages in Arkansas. Well, that's probably like having a whole nother half of a job on what you're going to end up making. But so if you're ready to move from obscurity to prosperity, hit the links below.